Hello and welcome to the 2020 GlobalMindED Inclusive Leader Awards presented by GlobalMindED and AASA EDU with generous sponsorship from the KPMG Foundation, Pearson, the International Labor Organization, CEL-Ed, Morgan Stanley, and the Pelican Bay Group. I'm Carol Carter, founder and CEO of GlobalMindED. Welcome to this extraordinary evening. First priority, I'd like to introduce our partner, Dr. Crystal Rose from AASA EDU. Dr. Crystal Rose is the epitome of an inclusive leader and impact maker. Today's world needs her brilliance and service more than ever as a medical doctor who also holds a PhD and is a global expert. This combination provides a unique lens for her path-breaking leadership role at AASA EDU. Dr. Rose sets the high bar we all need in her unwavering dedication to social justice, inclusive inquiry, and unconditional acceptance of all people. GlobalMindED is thrilled to have her exceptional expertise drive events like this in celebration of inclusive leadership tonight. Crystal's heart is as wide as the world, and her mind, as you will see tonight, is as deep as the sea. Please meet our partner and dear friend, the architect of this evening, Dr. Crystal Rose.
Thank you. I'm honored. Welcome, everyone. The Inclusive Leader Awards represents a high point of 2020. And yet some may wonder if this aspirational trajectory is gaining traction. I believe it is. As Executive Director of Academic Affairs at AASA Media, we're grateful to be one of the fastest growing multimedia companies that happen to be minority owned with over 75 million readers, viewers, learners, and listeners. And I'll admit, our growth has taken us somewhat by surprise, but I say this to invite you to visit AASA, and you'll experience, like GlobalMindED, we're advocates for equity and intentional about inclusion. And we do this in synergistic ways. GlobalMindED creates a diverse and capable talent pipeline. AASA, as a multimedia company, reflects this diversity with our offerings, podcasts, TV shows, events, daily news, and the next to keep you ahead of the curve, highlighting amazing people like you'll meet tonight. AASA is for change makers around the world, like the mentors and the students who work with GlobalMindED, who will one day be receiving these awards. We know knowledge is power and a driver of change, like AASA and GlobalMindED, as well as those of you who are watching. You're a part of this positive direction. The awardees you're about to see are brilliant thought leaders, true stars in a challenging time. Speaking of spotlight, it is only fitting to place this now on Carol, our Inclusive Award creator, luminary founder, and fearless leader of GlobalMindED. Martin Luther King Jr. said, "An individual has not yet started living until they can rise above the narrow confines of their individualistic concerns to the broader concerns of all humanity." Carol answers this call. As one of the most insightful people I've ever met, she wields her rare and vital global expertise to connect leaders from all backgrounds with cross-sector experts, providing innovative opportunities for young people to succeed. Her excellence shapes the lives that she impacts and the world beyond. Through her leadership, her mentees become mentors. She has broken numerous glass ceilings, but her joy involves bringing others alongside her, leveraging her self-made success to close the equity gaps. Carol, back to you.
Thank you so much for those kind words, Crystal. It's been a joy to work with you on this. As Crystal said, GlobalMindED creates a capable, diverse talent pipeline to get more women, people of color, and other underrepresented talent into the education, economic mobility, and leadership pipeline. Think of it as a virtual underground railroad, getting all people to financial freedom and prosperity. GlobalMindED has several programs, but our top priority is success for first generation to college students with leadership training and connections to role models, mentors, internships, and jobs. This year, in partner with Every Learner Everywhere, we created the GlobalMindED ELE Ambassadors, 25 diverse students across the country, all paired with industry mentors, receiving leadership training and professional opportunities throughout the year as a cohort. We also co-published the Student Speak Report with ELE and the Equity Project to share their much needed voice to the academic community and business leaders at this difficult time of COVID. GlobalMindED college collaboratives take our national leadership content and training to college campuses to scale impact through sponsored hidden curriculum, which needs to be fee waived for low-income students and the faculty and advisors who teach them. GlobalMindED equity teams across industries hold monthly courageous conversations catalyzing change events, all led by people of color, featuring diverse panelists who are national and global experts on equity issues that must be solved. Business, government, faculty, funders, and students attend these events. Our Inclusive Leader Awards cover these industry sectors, giving much needed recognition to diverse leaders who show us the way forward in diversity, equity, and inclusion. The 2019 winners walked the red carpet at the opening dinner of the GlobalMindED annual 3-day conference last year. And like this year's honorees, these Inclusive Leader Award winners provide role models, not just for our students, but for all of us. We know that until people honored here tonight become household names like sports stars and movie stars, we won't have the diversity we need at the highest level of leadership. You will not only get to know these leaders personally tonight, you will also hear what they boldly recommend for inclusive leadership in their sector overall. Now, let's get to it. It's my great pleasure to introduce our MC, our Master of Ceremonies for this evening, John Diaz from the San Francisco Chronicle. Welcome, John.
Well, thank you very much, Carol. I am delighted to be Master of Ceremonies for the GlobalMindED 2020 Inclusive Leader Awards. Prepare to be inspired. I'm John Diaz, the editorial page editor for the San Francisco Chronicle. I was a first-generation college student when I entered Humboldt State University, a small school on the Northern California coast. I had no idea what I wanted to major in, let alone pursue as a career. I certainly could have used some of the mentorship and support of GlobalMindED back then, but I did find my calling while working on the student newspaper. Once I graduated, I steadily began to work my way up, eventually reaching the San Francisco Chronicle, the major paper in the area where I grew up. A dream come true. Journalism is a competitive profession and a business facing many challenges, but after all these years, I have this advice. Do what you love and don't worry about which career has the best job prospects or necessarily makes the most money. We spend way too much of our lives at work to not enjoy what we do. And seek out mentors if they don't seek you out first. We can learn and grow from the backgrounds and experience of one another. Now let's meet these amazing winners, role models for all of us, especially the students GlobalMindED serves, our emerging leaders from the capable, diverse talent pipeline. Please welcome Portia Kennel. From the age of 7 in her East St. Louis living room, Portia knew she wanted to be a social worker. Her mom, struggling with the sole responsibility of raising her and her brothers and sisters, was forced to seek public assistance. The social worker who showed up was disrespectful, insensitive to her mother's plight and the needs of her children. It was during one such visit that Portia vowed to become a social worker herself, one who worked with families like hers with respect and compassion. Portia's passion became her calling, leading her to create the nation's first EduCare school and establish the National EduCare Network. As a successful veteran in the early childhood field, Portia's contributions combine extensive experiences designing and implementing evidence-based early childhood programs of impact. Now she is Senior Advisor at Buffett Early Childhood Fund. Please welcome Portia Kennel, GlobalMindED Inclusive Leader for Early Childhood.
Thank you, John, and thank you for this award, which really confirms my own personal commitment to making a more equitable reality come true. All children are born learning, yet there are inequities deeply rooted within parts of America's early childhood education system. Early education faces a variety of challenges right now when it comes to quality, access, affordability, workforce compensation, and finally, financing. In fact, some experts project that it would take for early education and care to be rebuilt, it would take a $50 billion investment to rebuild it back better for today and beyond. But to achieve any real progress on any of these fronts, our country must address the fundamental challenge of racial equity, head on, clear-eyed, and without fear or blame. I believe the way to build back better in the early childhood system is to include parent, family, and community voices at the table when decisions are made about how early childhood is supposed to work for children and families. Finally, I leave you with this message. No movement for social justice and racial equity will ever succeed without the full and robust participation and leadership of those most affected by the inequities and the injustices. Again, thank you so much for this award.
Dr. Mort Sherman. There are those pivotal moments and significant people in our lives which help shape who we are. Mort remembers well his mom quietly but firmly helping a neighborhood boy understand what language was respectful for neighbors. And he remembers well his father holding up his mechanic's hands filled with grease and saying, "You can choose to be a mechanic, that's okay, but you can choose to be anything you want in life with an education." From his first teaching assignment in inner city Philadelphia, throughout his years as a school superintendent, and as an associate executive director of the School Superintendents Association, those two life-framing moments have been core to treating others with respect as he committed his work to creating opportunities for each and every child he serves. His specific work growing the pipeline of urban superintendents, women in school leadership, and aspiring superintendent programs for Latina and Latino leaders ensures that there will be more people of color at every leadership level within K-12 to teach, inspire, and be role models for our diverse, emerging student talent. Please welcome Dr. Mort Sherman, inclusive leader from K-12 education.
Thank you, John. Thank you for this recognition. You know, when I meet with superintendents or with any community connected to education, I ask them, why public education? For me, the answer is pretty straightforward. Public education creates productive, literate, participating citizens so that we can sustain and enhance our democracy. In fact, education is the bedrock of our democracy. And through your participation, whether it's in a PTA meeting, a school board election, support of local initiatives, we can better serve all children and increase the pipeline for underrepresented groups, for women, for Black and Brown children, for LGBTQIA. Have conversations locally about who should be in our classrooms, leading our schools and our districts, and insist that our educators reflect the children we serve. If you are a young person watching this or a retiree who wants to give back or a career changer, thinking about becoming a teacher, this is one of the professions where you can make a difference every day. And that difference changes lives, families, and neighborhoods, strengthens communities overall, and sustains who we are as an American people. That creates a nation of graduates who can be, do, or have anything they aspire to achieve. Thank you.
Please welcome Dr. Amy Gutmann. She will be appearing via a recorded message. She is the president of the University of Pennsylvania and the winner of the Inclusive Leader Award for Higher Education.
Education transforms lives. Simply put, what is the difference between a scrap metal dealer and the president of the University of Pennsylvania? The answer, a single generation. The scrap metal dealer, an immigrant who escaped Nazi Germany, was my father. I was the first in my family to graduate college. And today I am privileged to lead one of the world's most innovative universities. All grant financial aid and need-blind admissions, recruiting and retaining the most excellent and diverse faculty, building a vibrant community that supports all students every step of the way. We fuel inclusive educational opportunity that uplifts entire families and societies, as it also elevates individuals. Like the Penn Rhodes Scholar from West Philadelphia, who was the very first in our family to attend college. Like Penn's new dean of the #1 business school in the world, the Wharton School, who shattered 2 glass ceilings as a Black woman. A single generation is all it takes when we open wide the doors of educational opportunity. This is not only the right thing to do, it is also the smart thing to do. From inventing life-saving cancer treatments to transforming our capacity to cooperate across divides. When we're at our most diverse, we're also at our creative best. The profound challenge before us is demonstrating this truth convincingly to a world grown more skeptical of our work. Affirmative action and other time-tested policies are under assault. My story can and should be possible for countless other students from all backgrounds. Our work must endure, and with your help, it will. On behalf of Penn and higher education everywhere, I am so deeply honored to receive the Inclusive Leader Award. The GlobalMindED family expands the work to which we are all so devoted. For everything you do to open the doors of opportunity wide, I am profoundly grateful. Congratulations to my fellow awardees, and thank you all so very much.
Please welcome Dr. Chantal Line Carpentier. Growing up with an alcoholic dad who had a 3rd grade education, Chantal Line's early years in rural Canada were influenced by her mom's desire and bold vision for what she herself could not become, as she married early after getting pregnant and had a degenerative disease. She spent her early years hunting, fishing, and logging in the remote northern part of Quebec. As a first-gen college student who loved school, she made her way to McGill and became an agricultural environmental economist in both her undergrad and master's work. She trekked across Canada before going to Virginia Tech for her PhD. She has been at the UN for 13 years and was instrumental in the process, negotiations, and adoption by all nations of the Sustainable Development Goals in 2014, ultimately adopted the very next year in the 2030 Agenda. She is currently Chief United Nations Conference on Trade and Development in the New York Office of the Secretary General, focusing on sustainable development of the poorest nations, empowerment of women, and micro, small, and medium-sized enterprises. Chantal Line is fluent in English, French, Spanish, Portuguese, and possesses a strong knowledge of Mandarin. She competes as an ultra-marathoner, Ironman, and is 2nd Dan Black Belt. Please welcome Dr. Chantal Line Carpentier, Inclusive Award winner in the government sector.
Thank you so much. I am deeply honored to receive this award. And I would like to use my time to say what I hope government can do for us. What the world needs right now from government is threefold. First, ensuring that the $15 trillion that are being injected by our government to support the economy during this COVID-19 related economic crisis is channeled to a global Green New Deal, using the SDG as a blueprint so we come out of this crisis with less inequality, not more, with more resilient peace and more sustainable and circular economy. The basis of the Agenda 2030 and the SDGs is to leave no one behind. The New Deal must target support to SMEs, women, youth, and developing countries, all harshly hurt by this crisis and with long-lasting impact. Second, they must resist putting austerity measures in place too soon. Austerity measure hurts women and the poor and the disadvantaged the most. Third, they must support a strong, reformed, reform multilateral system to solve climate change inequalities and tax haven issues that can only be solved through global cooperation, as well as accelerate the reform of the trade and investment treaties that ensure that they deliver for all, including the poorest countries and people, as well as the planet. I want to congratulate my fellow award winners tonight, and this is so inspiring. Thank you.
Please welcome Dr. Pierre Theodore. Dr. Pierre Theodore is a graduate of Princeton and earned his MD from the University of Virginia with specialty training at the Johns Hopkins University in general, cardiac, and thoracic surgery. He has been a commissioned officer in the United States Navy Reserve Medical Officer Corps, holding the rank of commander. Currently, he is the Vice President of Global Public Health for Johnson & Johnson, where he also leads key initiatives as part of a $100 million commitment to health equity. He co-leads the GlobalMindED Health Equity team, along with Dr. Monique Butler. Pierre remains clinically active as a member of the adjunct faculty of Stanford University, engaged in heart and lung transplantation. Pierre is committed to advancing clinical care in low-resource settings across the globe as part of his mission to reduce human suffering. His passion is working annually in Haiti, where his parents were born, taking Bay Area physicians to provide surgical care. Please welcome the Inclusive Leader Award winner for Health and Wellness, Dr. Pierre Theodore.
Thank you so very much, John. And this is truly a delightful honor for which I am deeply grateful. You know, it can be said that we're judged by the company that we keep, and it's a particular pleasure for me to share in this call to action tonight with my fellow honorees, given their remarkable accomplishments. Congratulations to all. You know, this moment provides us with an opportunity to reflect on the future of all our professions, and that which we have in common across themes of inclusion and fairness and justice, and also the things that are unique to our respective struggles to create a world that relinquishes legacies of disadvantage. There's a saying that for every 1,000 of us that are hacking at the lees of injustice, there are but a few that are really addressing the roots. This expression calls us specifically in healthcare to think not just about Band-Aid solutions to the problems such as maternal mortality, HIV/AIDS, COVID-19, and cancer that we face, but rather to address the fundamental drivers of health injustice. We call our mandate our credo. It's what we believe, that the patients come first and our success comes to the service of their needs. I know that we are in a season of great challenge in the United States in politics and in public health alike. And it may be true that this is the darkest hour before the dawn that we find ourselves in, but we are in this together. And I want to just thank GlobalMindED for being a platform for equity and a forum for like-minded souls. Thank you so very much.
Please welcome Carla Harris. Carla was born in 1962 in Port Arthur, Texas, and was raised in Jacksonville, Florida. As the only child of an educator and a commercial fishing boat captain, Carla was raised in a no excuses household. Her parents taught her to take responsibility for herself and her actions. She did just that when a college counselor said she was not Ivy League material. Politely ignoring his perspective, Carla proceeded to be admitted to Harvard College, where she majored in economics and excelled academically. She went on to Harvard Business School, opening the doors to her career rocket rise on Wall Street, where she is now vice chair and managing director of Morgan Stanley. She is a first-gen Ivy League college success who is also a mother, author, singer, and faith follower. Her motto is, "We are blessed so that we can be a blessing to others." Please join us in recognizing Carla Harris as the inclusive leader from banking and finance. Accepting for Carla is her longtime mentee, Tristan Francis, a Harvard Business School grad who comes to us from Singapore, where he works for Boston Consulting Group.
Thank you so much, John. It is an honor to accept this award on Carla's behalf. I first met Carla during my junior year at the University of Pennsylvania. As a first-generation college student, I was in awe not only of Carla's tremendous professional success, but also her equally inspiring commitment to authentic leadership as well as giving back to others. Carla motivates me not only to become the best possible version of myself, but also to then pay it forward by opening doors and creating opportunities for others to succeed. When it comes to inclusive leadership, Carla says the following three things are needed. Firstly, we need consistency. In a bull market, everyone invests in DEI programs, but in a bear market, companies pull back, which turns off their diversity pipeline, and that has to stop. Secondly, we need accountability. Top leaders need to drive these outcomes and create cultures where diverse people will want to stay and grow. And lastly, we need intentionality. For Fortune 500 to 1,000 companies, executive recruiters need to know that you want diverse candidates. This is not a supply issue. Beyond recruiters, ask your diverse talent for who they know in their circles, who they went to undergrad or business school with at historically Black colleges and university or through other organizations of diverse people. Everybody has a network, and corporate leaders need to broaden theirs to meet and hire diverse talent. Congratulations, Carla, on this well-deserved award, and thank you for all that you do to make our world a more inclusive place.
Please welcome AJ Grant. AJ grew up in New York with a passion for nature and the outdoors. She was a rafting guide, an outdoor wilderness leader, and a Forest Service worker before she found her true mission at the intersection of marketing and the environment. Her life has been dedicated to communicating social and environmental issues to the public. President of Environmental Communications Associates, her clients have included Honda North America, Roche, British Columbia Ministry of the Environment, Lands and Parks, U.S. Green Building Council, FEMA, Indian and Northern Affairs, Canada, and the Vatican. She has written high-impact environmental curriculum for elementary, middle, and high schools, and co-founded that Emmy Award-winning PBS show, The Big Green Rabbit, a children's multimedia company focused on creating healthy bodies and a healthy planet. Big Green Rabbit has over 85 million hits on YouTube and has been a favorite entertainer for Easter at the White House. Please welcome AJ Grant, the Inclusive Leader Award winner in Energy and Sustainability category.
Thank you so much for this recognition. The most inclusive thing that we have in common is our planet Earth. And giving voice to the voiceless is key to sustainability. In that regards, the most disadvantaged, disenfranchised, excluded, voiceless entity that I know that we need to listen to is our own life support system called planet Earth and nature. There are literally thousands of places to engage and seek solutions to environmental and sustainability issues. Just witness the incredible array of work of this global-minded community and my colleagues. But I believe that in this profound point of time of massive planetary and societal change, solutions to our biggest challenges are right in front of us, if we could just take our cues from nature. When we look at what is truly sustainable and resilient, the only real model that has worked over long periods of time and demonstrates true diversity and inclusion is the natural world. If we focus on one thing in the next few years, we need to take nature's cues and redesign business and society to operate as nature does and with respect. There's a movement called Nature Needs Half. In order for humans to survive, we need to make sure nature can operate, and she needs half the resources left intact. 3 areas of focus that can shift the trajectory of environmental and climate impacts in the future are on addressing population, there's no way around this one, to supporting and elevating indigenous cultures, and therein lies so many solutions with ancient knowledge that's needed, and to shift our unsustainable reliance on fossil fuels in order to avoid the worst impacts of climate change. And the most important thing everybody here can do is communicate the work we all do effectively. Thank you.
Please welcome Jose Hernandez. As the fourth of 4 kids, Jose was a first-gen to college student who grew up between seasonal jobs his mother and father had in the migrant fields between Michoacan, Mexico and Stockton, California. He worked hard 7 days a week picking fruit when he was not in school and moved 3 times each year until the 2nd grade, when a teacher persuaded his parents to stop the nomadic lifestyle for the sake of their children's education. He did not speak fluent English until the age of 12, In 1974, at the age of 10, Jose saw Gene Cernan, the last man to walk on the moon, from a tiny, fuzzy black and white television set, and knew in that moment he wanted to be an astronaut. His dad, who had a third grade education, validated that dream. Today, Jose has a nonprofit, Reaching for the Stars Foundation, providing STEM education and resources to encourage youth to pursue careers in space. Please join us in congratulating the first Hispanic American to travel in space in 2009 on board Space Shuttle Discovery. Meet Jose Hernandez, the inclusive leader from the space and aerospace sector.
Thank you, John, and thank you, GlobalMindED. Also want to congratulate my fellow awardees. You know, it's hard to argue against the fact that technology and innovation is the heart and soul of any national economy. But to capitalize on the above capabilities, governments must first invest in science, technology, engineering, and math, STEM education. Next, they need to create an environment that will allow for the creativity and innovation. Where this already occurs are in countries that invest anywhere from 2 to 3% of their gross domestic product in science. They are also, not surprisingly, the most developed countries. In underdeveloped countries, this investment is well less than 0.5% of the GDP. The reason why this occurs, and understandably so, is because of the political pressure these governments face to solve today's social needs. However, governments must be bold and visionary and consider long-term rate of returns, not just within their own election cycle. It is only then that they will be able to increase their STEM pipeline of talent, partner with universities and the private sector on R&D initiatives, offer incentives to attract investment, and finally, assure a safe work environment for all workers. Thank you.
Please welcome Lonnie Phillips. Lonnie was a motherless daughter. She lost her dear mom, who was an elementary school teacher, at the age of 12. Her dad assumed full-time responsibility for her and her sister. Years later, she can plainly see that her mother's funerals set the course for her life. Her fondest memories of such a dark time is how people spoke about her mother. She instilled in them the importance of education, the need to aim high, and demonstrated unconditional love. This loss was a constant reminder that life is short. We must make a difference with the time we are given. Lonnie went on to finish her MBA at UT Dallas and has spent 23 plus years rising through the executive ranks at one of the biggest companies in tech, Microsoft. She quickly learned that her passion was with the customer, translating how technology solves business problems. She has been a role model for many women and people of color, leading from her strengths and demonstrating the impact of being a compassionate and inclusive leader at a major tech company like Microsoft. Please join us in congratulating Lonnie as the Inclusive Leader Award winner in the technology category.
Thank you so much for this award. And I have to congratulate all of the awardees. I feel humbled to be in your company. My vision for the technology industry is that we continue to understand the importance of diversity, equity, and inclusion because of the immense value it brings any organization as it drives its market share and shareholder value. In the tech industry, we also have a responsibility to build it into our solutions as we become a world that is driven by artificial intelligence. We must root out bias of any kind and represent the diversity of our beautiful world. To do this, we must do three things. One, continue getting proximity to understand the diversity, equity, and inclusion issues in front of us. Two, be more intentional and impatient around accelerating progress. And three, courage to have the difficult conversations and the willingness to confront and drive the necessary change. Remember, Proximity breeds empathy and compassion. When we lead from a place of compassion, we can broaden our perspective and be a more inclusive world. Thank you so much.
Please welcome Shelley Zallis. Shelley Zallis spent her career working in the corporate boys club. She knew it was time to rewrite the rules of the workplace to value feminine leadership qualities and create a space where women thrive. That is why she founded the Female Quotient, a company dedicated to advancing equality around the world. Her work has taken her to almost every continent, convening key stakeholders from Cannes to Davos, and now virtually during COVID. She is dedicated to the potential that all women can lead shoulder to shoulder with men and achieve any goal they set personally and professionally. Welcome, Shelley Zallis, 2020 Inclusive Leader from the Entrepreneurship category.
I am so incredibly honored to be receiving this award, this 2020 Inclusive Leadership Award, especially one on entrepreneurship. I have been very well known as the chief troublemaker, someone throughout my career breaking every single rule and creating the new ones. Why? Because when the rules don't make sense, you got to throw them out. We all know that the rules of the workplace were written over 100 years ago by men for men when women just weren't in the workplace. So when you think about being an entrepreneur, you need to be bold, you need to be brave, you need to be courageous, and you need to not be afraid to zig when others zag, because that's how true change happens, when you live on the fringe, not in the safety of the nucleus. You got to put yourself out there. And so when I think about equality, something near and dear to my heart, what I have given this chapter of my life to doing, it requires us closing the equality gaps, parity, policy, pipeline. It's time to rewrite the rules so that all of us can thrive, bring our best selves, our true selves, our whole selves to the table. And that requires intentionality. That requires conscious leadership. I always say that equality is a choice, unconscious bias is an excuse. If you use the word unconscious, you are quite conscious. So I think this award is for each and every one of us. This is a call to action for conscious leadership. What do we choose? To wait and watch or to do something? So I know that each and every one of us are chief troublemakers, or should I dare to say entrepreneurs. Time to break the rules, write the new ones, and create an inclusive world where we all see ourselves and we all belong. So thank you so much for this incredible honor. A shout out, Joan, to you, Joan Hornig, my dear friend, and to GlobalMindED for bringing this incredible family together. I am so inspired by my fellow classmates. Thank you.
Please welcome Michelle Norris. In all of her various roles in journalism, columnist, commentator, radio host, television correspondent, newspaper reporter, Michelle Norris serves as a storyteller and is one of the most trusted voices in her industry. As the founding director of the Race Card Project, she's also a story collector, creating a safe and brave space for people from all over the world to speak with full candor about race and identity. It is no surprise that sharing and capturing stories are a key part of her work. Michelle was raised by parents who did not go to college themselves, but they knew that their children would. It was more than a prayer, more than a dream. It was a fixed expectation. Michelle's parents were blockbusters, the first Black family to move into a previously all-white neighborhood so their children could attend the best schools possible. They filled their home with books, history, poetry, literature, biography, and they told their daughters simple messages that would forever shape their lives. Learn all you can. Everyone in this world, regardless of their station, can teach you something important. And wherever you go, hold the door open behind you so someone can follow your path. Those messages have been a compass that has helped Michelle Norris become a journalist who has won Emmy, Peabody, and DuPont awards. She is the first African-American female host of a national NPR program, and it has helped her become a leading voice around race and inclusion, helping our country confront hard truths and the hardened narratives that confine and divide us. Please welcome Michelle Norris, global-minded inclusive leader in media and arts.
Thank you, John. Thank you so much. I am honored and inspired and filled with joy and motivation to be with all of you tonight. I feel like we, as fellow awardees, are fellow travelers and part of a mighty army marching forward to bust down doors so people can follow behind us. Congratulations to all of you. I think a lot about expectations and assumptions in the work that I do and the way that those things can shape the world. And there are a few simple things that we can do as a country in creating a more equitable and just space and a world where more people can reach their full potential. And I have a suggestion, and it's really very simple. We have to believe that creating just and equitable spaces are possible. We have to believe it. I told you it's simple, but it starts there. In business, in academics, in hiring and promotion, we often hear this lament that it's just so hard to find the right person, that to find someone who's exactly the right fit. And I don't buy that. And I don't condone that mindset. If you run a business or a university or a lemonade stand on the corner in your neighborhood, yes, creating a profit margin is difficult, but you work hard at it. Because it's important. You become clever and you become creative and perhaps even competitive. And we have to find an incentive to make sure that we bring that same mindset to creating diverse and equitable and just spaces, particularly for a country that is uniquely diverse as ours. There's a deep body of research that confirms that companies and institutions that are more diverse post better profits, they have better retention rates, they are more innovative. And so it's important that we figure out how to embrace that mindset. The other simple thing that we can do relates to language. And I'm a communicator, so I also think a lot about language. And when we talk about diversity and inclusion, I want to give you a challenge to try to talk about those things without using those actual words. When you can't use those words as shorthand, you have to think about what it is that you're really trying to achieve. And when you have to do that, you have to put a precise point on it. And when you think about it in that precise way, you better understand what it is that you're trying to achieve. These things are doable. It starts there with believing that it can be done and then rolling up the sleeves and getting down to business, because it's more important now than it's ever been. I'm so honored to be a part of this posse. Thank you very much.
Please welcome Sheetal Shah. From an early age, Sheetal developed a keen interest in volunteer service in support of women's and children's health. Her cross-disciplinary curiosity and passion drove her to serve in the Peace Corps as a public health volunteer in Honduras, focusing on youth HIV/AIDS and women's reproductive health. During this time, she began to see in real time what she knew to be true. Health, education, and advocacy were all intertwined in creating a healthy community. After graduate school in New York City, she became convinced that promoting cross-disciplinary policy would be her vehicle to create lasting change for the most vulnerable and disenfranchised. She moved to DC to work for her dream organization, the National Coalition for Community Schools, promoting policies to support schools becoming the centers of community, the hub for students, families, and community members. This was a place where they could access support and services in health, housing, childcare, and academics. She continues leading this effort at the American Federation of Teachers, along with directing their philanthropic efforts. This year, grant making has pivoted to focus on COVID rapid response grants, responsive to AFT's members' immediate needs during this economic, health, and social justice crisis. Welcome, Sheetal Shah, Inclusive Leader for Foundations and Funders.
Thank you so much, John, and I am honored and humbled to be standing next to virtually these amazing giants in their respective industries. I have a lot to learn and a lot more to do, I realize. In my short time, I wanted to share two things that the philanthropic sector must do if we are going to help close the equity gap. First, we need to listen and learn to grassroots organizations, community members, families, and youth especially. What are their day-to-day realities and lessons learned that they can share with us that can help inform our grant making and make it more equitable and accessible to what they actually need to have change and happen in their lives? Not just push down on vogue issues that are our pet issues, but really listening. And I can't emphasize that enough. And one of the concrete ways we can help support this type of planning is providing resources where they can convene the people, the stakeholders, the grandmothers, the brothers, the sisters that need to be there and help uncover how they want to make immediate action. And lastly, we need to, at the foundation level, diversify, diversify, diversify. Not just by race, but by background and experiences that we bring to the table. It's obvious that this cannot happen overnight. We need to reflect and empathize on what our communities need and in order to change our giving. One step towards this is to create a diverse pipeline of not just board members, but leadership within our foundation so that they can move on and become board members as well. So I leave you with that. If we're going to create equitable and lasting change, philanthropy needs to make these two changes. Thank you so much, everyone. I'm honored.
Please welcome Marta Newhart. From her seat at her family's crowded, love-filled kitchen table, Marta learned early how to make tough decisions. Her hardworking Mexican-American parents did not have much, but they made sure their 6 children were fed, clothed, and cared for. As a corporate executive, the adept allocation of resources she witnessed at her parents' kitchen table has been her bread and butter, or as they say in Spanish, her pan y mantequilla. Just as her parents made sure everyone around the family table was heard, Marta has built a reputation for listening to, learning from, and promoting diverse voices at the corporate table while managing resources in a fair and equitable manner. Her passion for creating and nurturing diverse teams comes from her own experiences of being marginalized throughout her life. Marta found her voice many years ago in the backseat of a family car as she, her parents, and siblings crossed back into the U.S. after a trip to Mexico. It was there that a frightened but emboldened little girl responded to a stern Border Patrol officer who grilled her about where she was from. As she timidly responded that she was from Olympia, Washington, the officer waved the family through. It was in that instant that Marta discovered the power of her voice, and she has not stopped advocating for herself and others ever since. Please welcome the Leadership in Equity Inclusive Award winner, Marta Newhart.
Thank you, John, and thank you, GlobalMindED. I also want to thank Dr. Linda Rivers. I want to talk a minute about the role of corporate America, because diversity, equity, and inclusion have to be more than buzzwords. They have to be as vital to our company's performance as our profit and loss statement. Inclusive leadership requires that we engage people from all walks of life and all perspectives. If we don't tap into the wide range of available talent, we're selling ourselves short and leaving out an invaluable segment of the population. We're limiting our ability to compete, to thrive, and to innovate in an increasingly diverse and demanding marketplace. In order to close the equity gap in the clean energy sector and across corporate America, we have to bring the same focus and discipline we would if the gap were financial or technological. It's really that simple.
Please welcome Helen Young Hayes. A young Chinese American girl growing up in Mississippi and the daughter of immigrants, Helen was first generation to graduate from Yale, which led to her groundbreaking career on Wall Street, where she cleared several equity barriers. She is the mother of 5 children, and after surviving the 1989 United Airlines crash in Iowa, discovered her true purpose as the founder and CEO of Activate, a nonprofit which puts low-income and marginalized populations to work in the IT, healthcare, and business sectors. Among her success stories are formerly incarcerated, homeless, and otherwise struggling hidden workplace talent, whom her organization coaches, resources, and connects to upwardly mobile employment. This year, she began the inclusive economy movement to get Colorado business executives to lead inclusively, as she has done throughout her life. Please welcome Helen Young Hayes, this year's GlobalMindED Inclusive Leader winner in the nonprofit sector.
Thank you, John. To build a more perfect and inclusive world, the nonprofit sector must commit to relentless forward movement, to building organizations and ecosystems of shared prosperity. This is a marathon, not a sprint, and will require all of us in every sector to fight for equity. We must develop more alternative pathways to employment, not just four-year degrees. To build multicultural workforces, we must change our workplaces from the inside out, the top down, and the bottom up. We must address both the internal heart of our cultures as well as the external tactics of our organizations. First, we build cultures of inclusivity by understanding where privilege and bias reside in our organizations and by dismantling those systems and rebuilding to become places of belonging. We also must develop innovative recruiting and hiring practices that screen people in, not out. Specifically, we must focus more on an individual's future potential and less on their past. We need better mentoring, better talent development, and better career pathing for our diverse employees. We must also move away in the nonprofit sector from pay-to-play board roles that are only for large donors. Instead, we must recruit directors based on their transferable skills, expertise, and potential rather than simply their checkbooks. Lastly, we need a long-term view. If we want to address systemic inequity, we need to dream audacious dreams and work tirelessly to build the communities that today exist only in our dreams. Thank you so much, GlobalMindED, for this award, and congratulations to my esteemed fellow awardees.
Please welcome William Kennedy. Will Kennedy's passion for international development began in his 20s through work experiences in Kenya, Sudan, and Zambia, and in leading his college's divestment campaign from South Africa during the apartheid era. With over 20 years of service to the United Nations Office for Partnerships, Will has provided strategic guidance and support to hundreds of organizations seeking to align their mission and work for a better world with the UN's Global Development Agenda. The power of collaboration guides Will. He thrives at the nexus of shared vision, values, and opportunities for cross-sector partnerships as a force for good while engaging public, private, and civil society stakeholders. Will is grateful to work for a global organization committed to the interest of all citizens everywhere. His philosophy is reflected by the Zulu term Ubuntu, which is often translated as "I am because we are," but is most often used in a more philosophical sense to mean the universal bond of sharing that connects all humanity. Please join us in congratulating Will Kennedy, our Global Impact Inclusive Leader Award winner.
Thank you, John, so much, and thank you, Carol, of GlobalMindED. I'm both very humbled, honored, and grateful to receive this award, and just moved by the extraordinary leadership examples of the other individuals that are being honored today. In 2015, 193 governments gathered at the United Nations to launch the Sustainable Development Goals. And these global goals are a universally agreed vision and framework for collective action in addressing humanity's most pressing challenges, alleviating poverty and hunger, ending inequality and discrimination, protecting the planet's finite resources, and creating inclusive prosperity for all. Much like GlobalMindED, the United Nations believes that an equitable world requires everyone at the table. Achieving such ambitious goals is no different and will require mobilizing people everywhere with a shared commitment to building inclusive societies and economies. The COVID health crisis has magnified the structural inequalities and vulnerabilities that exist in our societies, and it further underscores the fragility and interdependence of our shared planet. In the words of the United Nations Secretary General, COVID-19 is a human tragedy, but it has also created a generational opportunity, an opportunity to build back a more equal and sustainable world. Humanity's collective future depends on it. Let's get it done. Thank you so much, and be safe.
We want to give a special shout out to somebody who is our MVP for this evening and for pretty much anything that we do, any of our programs, is Celeste. And Celeste, you've done an amazing job, and we'd love you to just say like a couple words.
Thank you so much for the recognition. It's been a pleasure, and I've really enjoyed meeting all of you, and it's very inspirational.
Thank you, Celeste. And now I would like to pass the mic back over to Dr. Crystal Rose for a couple of her closing thoughts.
What an amazing cohort of awardees. The great Audre Lorde said, "It's not our differences that divide us, it's our inability to recognize, accept, and celebrate those differences." Well, tonight we both recognized and celebrated the awardees in different categories who have defied the odds to be where they are today. And what better way to honor them but for us to respond to their call to action as they hold us to a higher standard, hearkening us with ways to make the future better. And will we rise to the occasion? Only time will tell. I say I sure hope so. So everyone out there, let's make them proud. Carol, back to you.
Thank you, Crystal. And I just want to close this really special evening with this thought that in 1997, I had the opportunity to go trekking in the Everest Base Camp region. And a few months after that, actually when I had moved to Denver, I was able to meet and hear speak Sir Edmund Hillary. And he very pointedly shared that his life was not about being the first to scale Everest, nor was it about the great honor of being knighted by Queen Elizabeth. But it was about the experience that he had that allowed him to do his life's work, to really find his purpose, which was about serving these people he fell in love with in the Himalayas. And he built hundreds of hospitals and schools for them. And that was his purpose. So I share that because I think these awards tonight are similar with each of you. It's not really about the awards per se, but it's about what the awards allow each of you to do through your fellow award winners, through the larger circles of GlobalMindED and AASA, and through the world that is waiting to become the inclusive community that we know we can create with the commitment and follow through that we're all capable of.